Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and this is the story that just doesn't want to die, but for good reason. What started as a story about just the concept of XRP being a Ripple ICO, initial coin offering, has spawned into something, different. There's all sorts of accusations, and including all sorts of critiques about Ripple pocketing money through the sale of XRP, and there's all sorts of twisting of words, and it's getting a little bit ridiculous here. But the reason it keeps going is because tweets from the major players within these Twitter threads that are spawning all of these stories, it hasn't really stopped. So I'm going to get you all caught up to date here. But we got a new tweet from David Schwartz. And it was in response to something that he had said on a forum some years ago. I'll have to pull up the exact date. I don't remember off the top of my head when I originally read it. But he was talking about how ultimately, of course, through the efforts that Ripple is making as a company, they would certainly hope and profit from their quote-unquote stash of XRP, which to me is like, hey, super thumbs up. They're cheerleaders for the XRP ecosystem. It sounds like a very fantastic thing, but it's being twisted into something that's allegedly bad, and they're just being critical. So anyway, I'll give you the specifics, but before going any further, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and if you are ready to celebrate the new year, because this is the last day of 2019 as I'm recording this. Hopefully you got some fun plans tonight. But go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel, because if you do that, I'll tell you what, you know that you are positioning yourself well for a very positive 2020. That's the best way to do it. All right. So this first story I got from Robert Thompson, tagged me along with a few of my fellow XRP YouTubers. It's from Daily Hodl. And this is titled, Ripple Executive Defends XRP Sales, which have reportedly reached $1.2 billion since 2016. Now, of course, everything that Ripple has sold, it's been, Ripple's been completely transparent. The level of transparency that Ripple is voluntarily engaging in is second to none in the world of blockchain. You just don't see this from other companies. Ask Ethereum Foundation how much ETH they hold. Question mark. Right, exactly. How much are they selling? How much are they exactly? So nobody else is doing this. But Ripple is encouraging, certainly, others to be more transparent. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. And I don't even really want to run through specifically this article. I want to show you, I'm just highlighting that this is still being covered because there's new comments. But let's just dig into the actual threads here. And I know I'm going to have to set the table a little bit because a couple of you out there may have missed some of what's happening, but I'll be brief on the older portion of this and get to the hot stuff as quickly as possible here. But there's a tweet from December 28th from David Schwartz. Ripple CTO, co-creator of the XRP ledger, writes, nobody buys XRP to give Ripple money to do things. We were venture capital / angel funded, and we're going to build regardless. We started selling XRP only after there was a market price and for negligible amounts compared to other funding. So, of course, he's referencing very early days of Ripple and what he stated there. And then here's this tweet from Mike Dudas, which is disingenuous at best. And he wrote, total Ripple equity funding, $294 million. Total Ripple XRP sales, $1.2 billion. And then he writes, yet XRP sales are, quote, negligible amounts compared to our other funding, per CTO Joel Katz. Can you see what happened there? That's a complete misrepresentation of what David Schwartz was stating. If you read the way he wrote it, he was talking about clearly the early days of Ripple and how he's making it as though most of the money accumulated to date was still from venture capital. No, he's just saying that they didn't need it. And who cares? Look, Ripple is the greatest cheerleader for the whole XRP ecosystem. So what if they're doing a good job helping to keep the price higher than it would otherwise be? Because I'm telling you, whatever you have to say about the price of XRP, it would not be third in market cap if not for, in part, the efforts that Ripple are making. Of course, there's other developers, there's other reasons people buy XRP. Technologically, it's superior to Bitcoin, obviously, but just saying, they are helping, right? And so David Schwartz did respond. He wrote, the key word in your tweets is "are," which you deliberately added to change the context of what I said. I invite everyone to read the context and see who is dishonest. The context is even clear from what you kept in the tweet, stating, we started selling XRP for negligible amounts. So again, started. But keep lying to your followers while we keep building and growing, which I thought was a fine response. But let's get into some of the newer stuff now. Take a look at this. This is from Larry Cermak, who really, I presume he must have felt like he's really bringing it to David Schwartz here. So he's got a string of tweets, and I'm looking forward to sharing this with you so that we can talk about how nonsensical this is. So Larry Cermak wrote this. You started selling XRP for negligible amounts, but Ripple sold $1.2 billion so far. You are right that you were VC/angel funded, but the truth is that you no longer are. Of course, they just went through, got another $200 million in the Series C funding, but hey, whatever. Ripple is funded by the fools buying XRP from Ripple with the hope that it will make them rich at some point. Now, that's nonsensical because Ripple's not selling to retailers, so if he's talking about the fools being institutional purchases, and exchanges and other entities along those lines, well, that's kind of silly because they're not necessarily even thinking that they're getting rich. It's for business, the business potential. Now, I'm not saying no institutions would want to purchase it for that purpose, but that doesn't mean that they're foolish. This is absolutely silly. But the everyday person out there, like you and me, we're buying from exchanges, not from Ripple. So it's a nonsensical point. Then Larry continues. How many people are actually buying XRP to use it versus just speculate on its future price? Well, let me ask you, Larry, how many people are buying XRP, or buying Bitcoin, your favorite coin, to use it rather than just speculate? Nobody's using Bitcoin. This is an entirely speculative market, almost 100%, and XRP is actually being used, which is why I think that comment's rather rich. Okay, Mr. Bitcoin Maxi out there, I am sorry, buddy. Actually, sorry, not sorry. That XRP is actually getting used, and Bitcoin is not. And then Larry continues here. The problem is that eventually people start seeing through the BS and the price starts tanking. Then he writes in parentheses, it already has. Which is, again, a completely bogus argument because even though the price has gone down, understand that altcoins as a whole are reacting separately, a little bit differently than Bitcoin, but still moves in tandem on the whole. And so, if you just want proof of this, just look at the market cap of XRP and consider that it's still in third place. If it were just XRP dropping but the other altcoins weren't, would XRP still be in third place? No. Okay, this is not rocket science here, but look at how he's positioning this. And then he writes here, Ripple just keeps throwing money at lawyers, but it won't last forever. Remember when you said this in 2013? We promote and develop Ripple into a massive and successful open source decentralized payment system. Our source of revenue is the sale of XRP. And so, and then he writes, this is 2017. He's got a screen grab, so let's just go ahead and pull this up. So he's actually referencing 2017 here. Here we go. And so here's what he wrote. Think about it this way. This is David Schwartz. This is actually something that he wrote. June 26, 2017. Ripple holds over 60 billion XRP. Given the way that's being escrowed, Ripple will almost certainly be the largest holder of XRP for the foreseeable future. For every penny the price of XRP goes up, the notional value of Ripple's XRP goes up by $600 million. Ripple can only materialize that value for its shareholders if that value and liquidity are preserved over the next several years. Now, of course, several, not meaning a specific set of time. Several is actually like a general term. You can go to dictionary.com if you want to look up the specifics, but nonetheless, it doesn't mean that after 2, 3, 4 years that they're just done. He's not saying that. Just to be super clear, lest anybody think that. And then David Schwartz wrote, sure, Ripple makes money by selling software to banks, but how many banks do you think Ripple would have to close to make $600 million in license/support fees? That would equal the value of a sustained 1 cent increase in the price of XRP. So look at it this way. Whatever you think the incentive is, whether it's for Ripple to generate business revenues through traditional, more traditional business means, just getting customers, signing contracts, or whether they're getting a huge chunk of their revenue because they are selling XRP, understand that the XRP has value because of what those players in the ecosystem, including Ripple, are doing, and Ripple is a great cheerleader for the ecosystem right there. So to me, this is not even a secret. This Larry guy is putting this out here as if, oh my God, the curtain's been pulled back. Look what Ripple CTO, well, he wasn't CTO back then, but look at what Ripple execs are actually want to do. Yeah, they want to increase the value of XRP. Not really seeing a problem here. All right, and then he wrote this. And then he tweets another one, or this, and it was a screen grab. And he writes, and let me just read this to you. Here's the highlighted part that was pertinent. This is, and David Schwartz wrote this. At least that's what Ripple's betting. Here, I'll just read the whole thing. It's not very long. This means they'll save money by holding piles of XRP sufficient to adapt the timing of these two operations, and they'll be adding to XRP demand. These forces could be expected to increase the price of XRP. The same logic can apply to all kinds of companies that make payments around the world. And here's the part that he highlighted. At least that's what Ripple's betting on. After all, the reason we're doing this is to increase demand for XRP to increase the value we can extract from our stash of XRP. Why is this allegedly a bad thing? Like, people investing in XRP, if you do your research, like I knew this from very close to the beginning of my crypto journey. And in May of 2017, I highlighted this recently too, there's a 30-year distribution plan that Ripple has for their XRP. So yes, of course, they're doing all this good stuff so that the price of XRP goes up. What the hell is the problem? I'm sorry, I'm just not seeing it. If you have a problem with Ripple's holdings of XRP fundamentally, for ideologically, for any reason, and I sure as hell don't, just don't buy it and leave everybody else alone. Is that reasonable? I think that's pretty damn reasonable here. And so Larry responded. Here's another quote, and he wrote this. My question for you, David Schwartz, is how much of Ripple's revenue in 2019 was from the sale of XRP versus from selling software to banks? I'm guessing 95% plus from XRP sales, question mark. It will eventually start catching up to you. I'm just not seeing a problem here. Look, they can't force sales on people. If any entity wants to purchase XRP from Ripple, that's a voluntary transaction. I'm sorry, man. This is just so silly here. And so David Schwartz responded to that and wrote, I wish I could disclose more about that side of the business, but that's not my decision. And so I responded to Larry here, and of course, not surprisingly, didn't respond to me. There's also a lot of activity on the thread, but in response to the part where I had this little screen grab where David Schwartz wrote, the reason we're doing this is to increase demand for XRP to increase the value we can extract from our stash of XRP, which, again, I find to be perfectly reasonable. I wrote this to Larry. Looks like you caught David acknowledging that Ripple is doing things they believe will increase the price of XRP. Please explain to me how Ripple, being a strong proponent for the health and longevity of the XRP ecosystem, is bad for those people that hold XRP. I don't care what percentage of their revenue comes from contract sales for customers versus XRP. I would suspect that more would come from XRP. So what? What the hell's the problem? Nothing new here, right? And then Galgatron responded to Larry here, and he wrote, this is in the tweet that Larry put out. My question for you, David Schwartz, is how much of Ripple's revenue in 2018 was from sale of XRP versus selling software to banks? Galgatron responded, the bigger question is, why does that matter? They publish their sales every quarter. Everybody knows Ripple sells their XRP. Everybody. What new information are you trying to expose? If people don't like it, they don't buy XRP. I just can't figure out your goal here. And he's just trying to just insinuate that there's something shady here. That's what I think the goal is. That's my very best guess here. And then Galgatron also wrote this. My impossible to verify belief is that buying XRP on an exchange demands a modicum of awareness/savvy and imposes a clear enough separation of concerns that it would be the rare person that truly thinks they bought equity in Ripple. That's very reasonable. And so what he was referencing there is just the possibility of somebody purchasing XRP thinking that they're actually getting ownership in a company. It's just getting into crypto, like he said, you have to have a certain amount of awareness. And I'm sorry. Get a big enough crowd and you can find anybody thinking anything. It's just a fraction of a percent, I'm sure, of people that actually think that. So, no. That's definitely not a thing here. But you can tell me what you think below. The saga continues. Maybe it's winding down now. I don't know if there will be another video about this because I haven't seen as much activity on the threads today. So this might be the last update on this. Kind of hopefully. There's nothing else to this, guys. Unless they write more. So we'll see. But that's it for this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!